Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday afternoon, December 8th. A very interesting weather pattern shaping up for much of the remainder of the month of December. It's an active weather pattern. We'll talk a little bit about one storm system that could throw some rain and snow in the Mid-Atlantic region on Sunday into Monday, and then another system behind that by the middle part of next week. Could also include some frozen precipitation for the Mid-Atlantic region. Before it actually reaches the eastern part of the nation, it could generate some severe weather out in the middle part of the country, the lower Mississippi Valley region, for example, around Tuesday of next week. Certainly some cold shots are working their way into the U.S., and it'll make for quite an interesting weather pattern for the next few weeks. Before we talk about specific storm threats coming up over the next several days, let's take a longer term view by looking at the ensemble run from last night of the European model. First, we're looking at 500 millibar height anomalies, and then we'll take a look at the temperature anomalies at 850 millibars, again using the ensemble run of the European model from last night. We'll go forward through much of the remainder of December. First of all, starting off today here, Thursday morning, December 8th, very, very strong high pressure ridging, higher heights than normal, showing up on the maps this morning, extending from Greenland to the northeastern part of Canada. This is all associated with that deeply negative NAO we've been talking about for seemingly a couple of weeks now in this part of the nation. Once this pattern sets up, this kind of a strong pattern sets up, it sticks around for a while, and we may be dealing with its impact over the next few weeks in the central and eastern part of the nation. Some orange here in the eastern part of the nation, but let's now move forward and see how this all evolves over the next couple of weeks. And here we go, let's push forward here, and that NAO stays deeply negative, and as a result we have some very high heights compared to normal that all the way into the upcoming weekend now, and you see it kind of reinforces somewhat, maybe shifts a little bit to the south in its particular location. Now this is the forecast map for Sunday afternoon, and there will be a wave in the upper part of the atmosphere moving into the eastern states, and it can encounter enough cold air to produce some snow, maybe even some accumulating snow, places like the higher elevations of the interior Mid-Atlantic Northeast U.S., Poconos, Hudson Valley region of New York, for example. Even some snow is possible down towards Philadelphia, maybe the far northern and western suburbs of D.C. Again, later Sunday night, going into the day on Monday. Very, very strong signal remains at the latter part of the upcoming weekend in terms of the negative NAO or the higher heights to normal over Greenland and northern Canada. Let's keep moving forward here, and we've talked about extension or the connection of these two upper level troughs, one over the Atlantic Ocean, another one diving into the western part of the U.S. by the early part of next weekend. By the time we get to about Tuesday or so, and right here is the Tuesday morning forecast map, this could result in some severe weather right in this part of the nation. Lower Mississippi Valley region, Arkansas, Louisiana, maybe the eastern parts of Oklahoma, Texas, into Mississippi, right in this region right here. Very, very strong upper level low in the diving into the Rocky Mountain states, and some warm humid air pumps up ahead of it, fueling the atmosphere of possible severe weather. Now, let's keep moving forward here. Notice this particular time, by the time we get to the middle part of next week, we have a low in the upper part of the atmosphere just off the maritime region of Canada, and kind of a squeezed in upper level high here. But again, that NAO remains intact for sure a week from yesterday. This is now the middle part of next week. And with this kind of a block in the upper part of the atmosphere, the initial surface low associated with this upper level low will slide to the north and east, but something else will try to develop along the coastline, and that is why there's a chance for some frozen precipitation, maybe snow or sleet in the mid-Atlantic region, the middle part of next week. Now let's keep moving forward here. And one thing I want to point out as we get later and later into the month of December, this, by the way, is a very interesting weather pattern. By the end of next week, deep upper level low, at least moderately deep upper level low situated over the eastern U.S. and a lot of blocking to the north, extending from Alaska to Canada into the Greenland area. A lot of orange showing up on top of upper level low, which again, trying to connect from the Atlantic Ocean to the eastern seaboard to the western part of the nation. This is a very interesting weather pattern for the central and eastern U.S. Now, let's keep moving forward here. Now we're into the latter half of December. This is all the way out a week from Sunday. We're looking at December 18th, and I want to point out, look at the flow pattern here at 500 millibars. This is now a week from Sunday, December 18th, and just watch what happens here as we move forward. It tends to tighten up a little bit, and the overall direction, and kind of keep in mind the winds tend to flow parallel to these height lines here. See what happens here as we get to Christmas week. They start to turn into a direction here, and this is going way out about 2 weeks from now, but the main point I want to make here is this tends to get colder and colder look to it when I take a look at because it's really showing a flow of air right out of the polar region and into the central and eastern U.S., and usually that works its way first from the central states and then into the eastern states. But again, kind of a cross-polar flow starts to set up here. It's about 2 weeks away, but it's something that we'll look for as we get closer and closer. Even later on, just notice kind of a direct charge from the North Pole into northern Canada, maybe the other side of the pole, the Siberian side of the pole. This is now Christmas week. We're looking at 2 weeks from today, December 22nd, and that is a cold pattern. Certainly we'll see some cold air masses crossing the pole, working their way into Canada, and then more than likely into the central and eastern state. Well, let's now take a look at the 850 millibar temperature anomalies, again using the ensemble run of the 0Z European model. Warmer than normal conditions here as we begin the day here on Thursday, December 8th. Colder than normal up across Canada. Let's now kind of move quickly forward here, and we'll see a generally colder pattern setting up later next week across much of the central and eastern U.S. Here we are into Sunday, and this is when there'll be a storm system trying to get organized right in this region right here, right near the mid-Atlantic coastline, and there's some colder than normal air, and that increases the chance for some snow, maybe even accumulating snow. Places like the Poconos, Hudson Valley region, upstate Pennsylvania certainly can get some accumulating snow out of this system. We'll take a closer look in a moment at that possibility. And here we go, some colder than normal air early next week in the northeastern part of the nation, but warmer than normal in the middle of the nation. Again, that can contribute to a severe weather outbreak right around this time frame here. This delineation has earmarks a very strong surface cold front, cold air to the west, warm air to the east, and probably a flow of air out of the Gulf of Mexico could set up for some severe weather, including the possibility of tornadoes around Tuesday of next week, lower Mississippi Valley region or thereabouts. Then we slide into the middle part of next week, and some of that precipitation from this system works its way in, and there'll be maybe enough cold air at the lower levels of the atmosphere for some snow, maybe some ice, middle part of next week. And then once that front clears the eastern seaboard, we're talking about a week from now, let's say next Thursday, Friday of next week. This is the Friday morning forecast map, December 16th. That's when a more sustained cold weather pattern looks like it'll get set up across much of the nation. Again, this is the 850 millibar temperature pattern a week from tomorrow, next Friday the 16th. And with that blocking pattern continuing to exist up across Canada and Greenland, it looks like once we get into this colder pattern across the nation, it'll stick around for a while. Here we are all the way now into Christmas week The 20th right here, this is December 20th, and still colder than normal. Pretty much coast to coast here. Maybe the southern part of the nation will be near normal or above normal. And keep in mind, ensemble runs tends to smooth things out as you go farther and farther in time. They get kind of more and more impacted by climatology. And what I'm saying is this is a pretty strong signal here for very cold weather here about 2 weeks from now, Wednesday, December 21st, especially across the western half of the nation, but colder than normal all the way into the mid-Atlantic region. And let's go all the way out to the end of this forecast run, and it's Thursday evening, December 22nd. Way out there, but colder than normal look, and still that negative NAO showing some signals in terms of the temperature pattern way out towards the latter part of December. Well, let's go through this morning's run of the Canadian model and focus in on a threat for the Mid-Atlantic region Sunday into Monday, and then that midweek threat that I talked about a little while ago that also may produce some severe weather along the way. And here we are as we begin the afternoon on Thursday, December 8th. And this system right here in the Midwest, we've been tracking it for the last few days, and it tends to weaken as it moves into the Mid-Atlantic region. Very, very cold, strong, high-pressure system. Notice that 1049 millibar high by the time we get into Saturday morning, even strengthening a little bit to 1051 by Saturday morning. That will control the weather in the northeastern part of the nation at the beginning of the weekend. Cold, dry air, and that kind of sets the stage for what could happen on Sunday into Monday. Another system starts to intensify over the Midwest at the beginning of the upcoming weekend. And keep in mind this very, very strong, let me just emphasize that, very, very strong high pressure system right here. And this is one cold, dry air mass sitting in place come Saturday morning, and we'll watch as this precipitation starts to move towards the Mid-Atlantic region here. Now let's move forward here through the weekend. Still some signs of that cold air damming, and here's that low pressure area as we begin the day on Sunday. And again, maybe a bit of a retreating cold air mass, but nonetheless cold air is dense air, and it could be hanging its ground here quite strongly by the time we get into Sunday morning. At that time, precipitation starts to break out. Now, remember, we emphasize very, very strong blocking right in this region right here of Canada, and farther to the north all the way to Greenland. And what that will do is it'll help to cause a southeastward movement of this low pressure area. It's because of that block to the north. And watch what happens. We have a relatively weak low over the eastern Great Lakes come Sunday morning. Moving forward, it kind of jumps towards the coast, south and east, and that's all as a result of that strong blocking to the north. And here we have a jump to the south and east can allow that cold air to hang its ground, basically, to stay in place, maybe even drop a little bit farther to the south during the day, Sunday into Sunday night. So watch out for possible snow in the Mid-Atlantic region on Sunday, and accumulating snow certainly on the table for those higher elevation interior location. I think you may see snow all the way down to Philly, maybe even into the far northern western suburbs of D.C., let's say Sunday into Sunday night into early Monday. And then we start looking to the next system, and here we go. By the time we get to Tuesday morning, a very strong low will start to intensify over the middle part of the nation. Talked about the influx of warm and humid air right here off the Gulf of Mexico, right into the Mississippi Valley region. That kind of adds fuel to the fire, and with this very strong low pressure area moving in this direction and colder air behind it, you have a clash zone right in here. Watch out for possible severe weather, let's say Tuesday night, give or take a few hours here. Now let's move forward here through the day on Tuesday, and again, this is the area, the Tennessee Valley, the mid-lower Mississippi Valley, late Tuesday night, where there could be some severe weather. and a blizzard across the northern plains from the Dakotas to Minnesota, maybe even upper part of Wisconsin, an all-out blizzard with strong winds and heavy snow, accumulating snow here come Tuesday night time frame. So the storm system has all the works, from severe weather to the south and east to accumulating snow, blizzard conditions to the north and west. Then we get into the day on Wednesday, and once again we have some cold air kind of remaining in place across the northeastern part of the nation, at least at the lower levels of the atmosphere. And watch what happens here. Kind of get a breakout of maybe ice, maybe sleet, freezing rain with that low level cold air in place across the mid-Atlantic region. This is later in the day on Wednesday. And then we move forward here, and that initial primary low goes up to the north and east towards the Great Lakes. And then because of that continuing strong block to the north, this system will not just go harmlessly to the north and east. It'll kind of redevelop, and right in here you can see at this particular time come Thursday evening, kind of a secondary low forms right here in this region right here. And we'll watch for this in this midweek system next week. We're talking Wednesday, well, Tuesday in the Mississippi Valley region, then Wednesday and into Thursday across the eastern seaboard. Again, that block to the north will play all kinds of, have an impact on this midweek system. Then behind it, by the time we get towards the end of next week, we have that cold air intrusion right in here, a cold air mass kind of flooding the nation in this fashion here behind this cold front. And this may be the beginning of that more sustained cold type of weather pattern across much of the nation. Again, we're looking at the end of next week. We're talking about Friday, December 16th. So a lot going on over the next few weeks. We have a very strong high latitude blocking situation that will stick around for a few weeks, and that will make for an easier influx of cold air masses from Canada into the U.S. And towards the end of that period, towards the latter part of December, we'll start to get some cross-polar flow that will bring even colder air, let's say from the North Pole or even on the other side of the pole, the Siberian side of the pole, into Canada, and ultimately likely working its way into the central and eastern U.S. And we have one storm system to watch for the mid-Atlantic region. Sunday into Monday, enough cold air around for some snow, maybe accumulating snow, and another kind of a wild system Wednesday into Thursday in the eastern part of the nation that may include rain, sleet, or snow, or a combination of the three, and all that followed by a more sustained cold weather pattern. That's it for now for ArcfieldWeather.com. I'm meteorologist